So at a high level, what should computer security give us? We're going to dig into each of these in more detail, so this is just going to be a real quick overview of them. So what a lot of people think of with sort of computer security, right, is going to be confidentiality. So the first thing you probably think of is I want to access my bank account and I don't want anyone to be able to see it in the way, or I want to access my email. So this would be normally called confidentiality because the data is encrypted in transit and is scrambled in such a way that someone cannot actually read it. But there's more, so that's really just one part of computer security. Because we also have integrity. So integrity means that the data has not been modified in transit. So we'll show you a few examples of that once we pull up the full integrity lecture. But importantly, we can also have integrity without ensuring confidentiality, right? So sometimes all we want to know is that data has not been modified. We're not encrypting the data. We're not securing the data. It's just sufficient to know that, in fact, this is the same data that was originally sent. So this is often the case, if you were downloading something. So if you're downloading a program from the internet, you don't need it to be encrypted, right? Because presumably it's a publicly posted program, but you do want to make sure it hasn't been modified. So you want to make sure if this is, for example, a Windows program published by Microsoft, you need a way to validate that, in fact, the program as published on the website is the same as the one that is now sitting on your computer and someone didn't modify it in the way. So integrity can provide that with or without confidentiality. Something that's not cryptographic but important as an overall security architect is the availability of a system, right? So the system should remain available for the user. The example, right, the normal example is that you can have a very secure system that's totally unavailable. And this is not really useful in the end of the day. So, what's the point of that? In more general terms, you might have heard about like denial of service or distributed denial of service attacks. So these are typically attacks on websites or on services that just try to overload them, right? So make them unavailable to the user. So that's actually a pretty common security threat, is to reduce the availability of a system such that the system is no longer usable. The final sort of really important one that you might not have heard of as much, or you might not think of as much, is non-repudiation of a message or something like that. So this would normally refer to, so there's actually a few areas this covers. So we'll talk about what it means to have this feature. The most important thing is to have authentication of messages to have this. But this basically means, you cannot deny having sent a message or authorized a transaction that you actually have authorized. So it's a pretty complex question, right? Because it's going to involve some secret. It's like, well, can someone then later claim that secret was stolen, and it's not actually them that authorized it. And there's lots of examples of that, right? So like the example I have there is people will claim something is hacked because they want to disclaim messages that were sent or things like that. So we're going to look at what sort of protocols and what provides this feature in security and cryptographic systems. So as I said, the next thing we're going to do is to dig into each of these in more detail and look at what they all mean.